Good evening and welcome to the Laughing Monkey Music Show. Today we have on the legendary Mick from URIAH HEEP. How are you?
I'm good, mate. I'm good. All good. All good.
I'm excited to have you on.
And when I first started, yeah, I mean, I think it's that passion that drives you on and keeps you going. Riding over all the rough spots and the good times too. Yeah, it's the passion that gets you through everything. Very much. Well, we hope you do, because we work really hard at it, and we always give 110%, every show, and we play every show like it's our last show, if you like, and we put that much energy and effort into it, and I think that's very important. And of course, we're a band that communicates very well with the audience, so they energize us and we energize them, so it's a two-way thing. It's great.
Well, and that's why I'm saying it may seem redundant for some people to say that stuff out loud, but the truth is, you have 52 years, about 52 years now, and first off, to be a band that long, to sound that good, and to play that well and be that happy, give back that much energy for that long is, almost unknown in the industry. The shelf life was 3 to 5 years when you started, so to be like it's your first day again, that excited, and the fans can feel that's good.
Yeah, I think it's the only way to go. We've never been a band. We've never been a band that shoegazes or just goes through the motion. We're always using new songs in the set and stuff, and releasing new albums. Indeed, in fact, we've got one in the pot now, ready to be released. So it's a very important thing for us to be very truthful to our heritage, but always moving forward at the same time.
That being said, so I want to step back. I want to talk about the album and we got a bunch of good stuff going on, but I'm a guitar player and a guitar fan. I just want to touch on your guitar playing. When you started, like over the years, and your sound has pretty much stayed the same, but you've gone back and forth. Like, have you favored a certain guitar style and guitar and pedal over the years? You keep going back and forth or over the years you've kind of keep changing it up a little bit. You know what I'm saying? Like it's
yeah. No, I've probably
tone chasing. You know what I'm saying? You're kind of tone chasing, but you got to establish as a sound. But then there's always tone chasing.
But I've never gone the route of Rudy music and everything else. I just call that tadpoles and an A4 to me. And doing scales are on fish. and, I tend to just do it from an emotive standpoint each time.
Mm-hmm.
When I started off playing, my guitar teacher was a guy called Alan Hodgkinson. I think his stage name was Alan Hodgkins, and he was the second guitar to Django Reinhardt. So my introduction was very jazzy, and and I used to love all those chord progressions and things. They were really lovely, and I kind of grew out of that because I could, my mother could only afford to send me once a week, and it'd give me the lesson on the Saturday, for instance, and I could play it that afternoon, and I had to wait a whole week. So I tended to it suddenly went, well, I've got to do this on my own. I can't wait. And then I went off and heard people like Buddy Holly and Eddie Cochran and those sort of 50, 60 rockers. And then that grew, with Elvis Presley, of course, and all those things that were happening around that time. And then it kind of grew into the rock thing, when the Beatles and Stones came up and opened up a whole new world.
You were from a period like in the late 60s. Even mid 60s to mid 70s is when there's so many new guitar sounds like that. Like everybody kind of grew over certain sounds every year. Is kind of a progression. But man, from 65 to 75, you're like, where did you get that sound from? Like, I just feel that's maybe just personal, but you know what I'm saying? Like it was from 13 elevators, like you're doing like garage mod rock in the 60s to like in the 70s. I mean, just everybody was just out there with these sounds.
Well, you get there to the late 60s or mid 60s, and it was all very polite. Everyone was wearing suits and ties and short haircuts and playing through little combos and doing little dance moves while they were playing and stuff like that. It was all very polite and nice and lovely. And then, bands like ourselves and Black Sabbath and Deep Purple and Led Zeppelin came and shook the world up. And, we actually, getting into the 70s, it was like, Marshall Stacks, everything was bigger and bigger and bigger. And then it was a bit rebellious, I have to say, the long hair, which is still here, thank goodness. And, the bell bottoms.
Hey, you do have a great head of hair, I got to tell you, especially, I mean, man, envious. It's like a superpower.
Yeah, it's still there. Thank goodness for that, mate. But anyway, so we kind of changed the whole thing, shook it all up, and without knowing it, we created our own sort of, we started creating the classic rock scene, if you like. But, it was a great time, I have to say. It was very creative. I mean, record labels signed you for 6, 7 album deals, and you grew with the label grew with you. It was a great time for creativity, for sure. But I think one of the things you're touching on, which I think is very important, was back in those days, everyone was an individual, was a musician. So, with the bands I mentioned, the guitars were different. Well, I didn't play like Richie didn't play like Jimmy Page, Jimmy didn't play like...
Exactly.
And the same with the bass player, same with the drummers, same with the keyboard players, and same with the vocalists. And it's the sum of those parts that gave each of those bands their own character and sound. And that's kind of missing today, because everyone is sounding the same, looking the same, and kind of traveling the same path,
I agree. I think actually it started to just really go bad. You talk about shoegazing. In the 90s, it started to really funnel into this weird type of thing where you can't tell artists apart anymore. I mean, I think the 80s, even the 80s for pop, you had like Men at Work and Cyndi Lauper and Prince, but they didn't sound the same, but they were pop. I think that was the last battle of individuality. I mean, there's still some artists nowadays. I'm not saying everybody, it's just, but when you hear classic rock, you know who these artists are. You know who everybody is,
Yeah.
Because,
well, it's like this, guitarists, for instance, go into a guitar school or college, or whatever it is, university, and they spend 2 years going through the process, and they all come out playing fantastic guitar, but they're all playing exactly the same. In that process, nobody's paid any attention to any individuality. And I think that's sadly missing today, which is a shame. But, that's the way...
Yeah, I'm sorry. One of the things I do hear, like what you said, is from that time period, and all the great guitarists, just like you, have done the same thing. I learned a little bit here, then I went and learned on my own. A lot of play the record, put the needle back, rewind the cassette, heard it myself. These are who I liked. I deep dive. I tried it. I played out instead of just, being a cookie cutter.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that could be a big reason why we're not having so much originality. I mean, besides, the musical world of compression of the commercial world.
The way we record, lots of bands record, not us, because we still go in the studio, play as a band in the studio, and record it there and then.
Supposed to.
Real old school. We haven't moved on in that regard, we try and use technology rather than let it dictate how we should use it, if you like. And so we have a different mindset to a lot of people. But I think with the advent of Pro Tools and people doing stuff at home and everything, sending files to each other, I think you've lost a lot of the heart and soul out of the music, to be honest. And you can tell those things, those things are very evident. And I think that's why the longevity of bands like us and all the other bands I mentioned are still revered and played in their homes, and they want to hear in the live arena. It's lasted 50 years, so it's got to be saying something, isn't it? But I'm not sure music today will do that. I think it'll just, because everything's so disposable.
I agree with you. I don't know who our future Rockstar had a lot of different versions of the saying back in the day. And you're right, with record labels, you had a time to build a fan base, and no bands would survive nowadays like that. There's no 6 albums to build a career, and none of that is there.
Touring up and down the country, sleeping in the van, putting the gig money into the fuel tank to get to the next place, and it was a whole different ball.
Yeah, no one can do that nowadays.
And just find guitars as you go through. I started on a very. I've got my first guitar over there that my mum bought me. It was just amazing, But you started with really basic stuff. You didn't have the equipment. You didn't have the access to it. Now people start. There's such great guitars there that are very cheap.
Yeah,
and you buy the best equipment. Very cheaply. And get great sounds, So it's a different ball game. Whereas we had the rusty strings and the,
Well, I was going to say your first one. Like, I remember my first acoustic was like metal strings. You put your finger on it; it almost makes your fingers like cut like deviled eggs, or with the eggs as egg slicers. You feel like every time you touched it, it just hurt. Yeah.
Well, you broke a
my
string.
guitars almost all. Yeah. are all
Yeah,
used guitars. I love pawn shop guitars because you got to find the treasures. You know?
yeah. I mean, if you broke a string, then you went and bought one string.
Yeah.
Well, you didn't get a set. Because you can afford it. I mean, I used to.
And now, how many sets do you have of like one missing string? Right? You have like a bazillion
Yeah,
other strings, but you always use that one stupid string again.
for instance, guitar picks, I used to buy the balalaika ones with the big tortoise shell.
Yeah.
It was a huge pick, and I'd cut them into 5 picks. Because that's the way it was then. You didn't have that accessibility that you can now, where you can go in and buy
Now,
every
what are you
shape.
using for picks now? Like,
Pardon?
now that you can afford it, what are you using for picks?
For picks,
You
I've got I use very, very hard pick. 1mm is the softest I'll ever use.
Really?
I like to dig in, yeah. And but normally it's Jim Dunlop picks that are very good. And but I get my my tech to score them with a standard.
Yeah.
I've got to get, because I do a lot of the hand movement stuff, and of course I've got to hold on to that hard.
Well, I love it because I love asking a guitar player like what they use, because I can't tell you how many times I'm so surprised. Like sometimes it'll be like heavy strings, or somebody I expect would be like hitting hard to like light strings. Like what are your gauges for your strings? Like what are you gauging?
Oh, 9 to 42, 9 to 42.
Oh, that's pretty good.
Yeah. And I just like to dig in.
Yeah.
I mean, wah is a big part of my sound. Got again Jim Dunlop, Crybaby, and it's a big part of my sound. But I don't always use it as a wah. If you look at a band like URIAH HEEP, to the left of me, there's a Hammond organ and Leslie's, and then the bass, and then the big double bass drums. So there's a lot of bass end over that side coming at me. So when I do solos, I try and get the wah on a sweet spot so I can sing over the top of it. So I use it more as a tone bend than anything. In fact, when I bend up, the foot goes down, and it's more of an expression pedal rather than wah 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 wah.
Yeah, well, that's a good point. And that's the thing. Like you have a large band, to find your sonic sweet spot for everybody to sound good. I think that's a really special thing, because a lot of bands don't do that. And you're like, yeah, they're okay, but there's something I don't know about it when you see them. It's because it's all muddy. It's just not, you know what I mean? You need to have
there's the art of when I'm playing high inversions of chords, the keyboard will play a low one, and vice versa. Right. So you're not lighting it up, as you're saying. The word muddy comes in when you do that. When you're both playing in the same register, it tends to get a bit muddy. But they're the things you learn as you go along with, isn't it?
That's fantastic. So you guys have, well, you got a little heavy. First, I think you have a new album, but let's talk. You have a Choice Cuts. You want to talk about that a little bit?
Oh yeah. Yeah,
Yeah, what are you doing now? You're a band. You got some merch. You got some albums out.
The Choice Cuts was it was all born out of BMG, who actually owned the first run of albums, if you like. And they came up with that idea. And first of all, they mentioned it to me without me knowing anybody else was going to be involved. I thought it was just me. So I thought, well, I'm not going to choose the obvious cuts, the July Mornings and the Gypsies and the things that we play tonight that people expect to hear. I'll try and get the deeper cuts, and that's the way I go is mine. And I think it works very well. I did have Salisbury in the actual full track because I think it's a wonderful piece of music. But of course, it's a long piece of music. So they said to me that we can't get that and all the other ones you've chosen onto the CD. So I said, okay, what have I got to lose? And they said, well, it'd be good if you lose Salisbury. So I went, okay, somebody else should do it anyway. So.
That's great. So you've had a couple compilations out and a few live albums out. So you guys are always doing stuff, and you guys have not stopped recording, forever. I mean, and so now the ideas and the freshness, do you still have like, a ton of ideas always coming, or is it like you have to stop and write, or are you just kind of guy that's always writing?
I think it's a continuous process, to be honest. You write sort of something every day, whether it's just a little lyric or a one line or a guitar riff or something. You just, document it nowadays, of course, on your iPhone very quickly, or sing it into it. And then when you play it back and you think, well, that's interesting, then you go and develop it elsewhere, sit down and start looking at it seriously. But it's a continuous process. I mean, we do speed up a bit when we say, okay, we've got an album we're going to record in October. Then, about July, August, we're thinking, oh, should we get this together?
Well,
But of course, Phil, the keyboard player, and myself have been the main writers. So, he's been the keyboard player. He's got loads of keyboard ideas. I've got loads of guitar ideas. And we're very in tune with each other musically and lyrically and everything else. So we write very fast. But with the advent of COVID for this album we've just written, it's one of those things we've had to FaceTime each other and say, I got this, send it back. And it was a long process. Whereas him and me in a room, we'll probably write something in a day. Whereas here, I've got to go shopping. I've got to drop someone off here. I've got to do that. I've got to do that. Suddenly it's 3 weeks. Come on, mate. Send me the lyric. Send me the add-ons that you're looking for, and I'll send you back mine. So it was a long process, but nevertheless, the quality's there. So we're very happy.
It's still good. Just took a little bit more to focus on. Yeah, I think people recording doing Zoom is kind of good. At some level, you can do your band. You guys can talk, and when you're done, you can just turn it off and go back upstairs and watch your Netflix or whatever. That's supposed to be in this band room with a bunch of people all day long. You're like, I'm done. Boom. It's convenient. But then you miss the soul of the people. And no, we have to focus on this until we get done.
Yes.
What I was going to say is not every artist sits and writes a little bit every day. Some people literally just don't do anything for a year. And they focus on songwriting time for this period. So it's, I would think, to me, it would be more natural to kind of, as it comes, I'm the kind of guy, I got up and do a little as you go. I can't do it all at once. So that makes sense to me. But there's some people who just don't touch their guitars for the tour. Like, have you been playing a lot since you haven't been off the road?
I couldn't do that. It's something that's boring to do continuously. I mean, I have to say that, we put the, the pedal to the metal, if you like, when we know there's something ahead. Right. We've got a demand, that so you've got to be ready by here because we're going in the studio. Yeah. And that's a different ball game, but generally day to day, it's, you listen to things, no, well, I do this. But not always things for HEEP, I have to say, you just write, you don't write specifically for the band all the time. You write all sorts of things, and all sorts of different music. But my son, for instance, he's doing a lot of rap stuff and, which is not my genre at all. But, I've been in the computer and I've written some songs for him and stuff, and he's gone up and recorded them in the studio with the prop producer. They sound fantastic, but it's, again, but you're still writing something, you're still creating. And I think that's the essence of it all, is just to keep creating.
What is the end goal for this new album to come out? What are we thinking?
Well, it's just we just finished. It was the same producer, Joe Ruston, who did our last album, "Living the Dream," that was accepted by fans and media alike, saying it's one of the best.
It's so good. It's so good. That's what I'm saying. It's like so strong. It's not like you guys are just easing in, on the last lap.
A lot of people saying it's one of the best of our career, and 50 years down the line, you think, well, hang on, that's a thumbs up. So we used Joe again. He was fantastic. He came over to England. We recorded it in the same studio, same thing. Band in the studio, playing together, and we didn't hardly use the click track, just go for it as a band, and you rehearse the track up, and in 2 or 3 seconds you got it. It's great because the band's on fire. And then so anyway, we've just okayed the back and forth of the mixes, so we've got that done now, and of course now we've got to do the cover, all the artwork, which takes a long time anyway. And
who decides that? You guys, the band, or does the studio come back and someone bring it to you guys, or do you guys handle it in house?
No, we decide it. Yeah.
Good.
We have the usually the process is I usually come up with a title normally, and then once everyone's agreed that, jumped on it, then we'll give it to an artist, and then we'll start building up ideas and seeing back and forth, and then it will just then we'll do all the booklet and everything and give it to the record company. Then, to be honest, it's in their hands when they feel best to, because it is music business and we've done the music, and they'll do the business. They'll decide when best to release it to get the benefits they're looking for their investment. So
I can see that. I don't think anybody knows right now. I've seen a lot of the bands we talked about are releasing their best albums. You guys have had some of your best albums recently. Deep Purple's done some. I mean, a lot of the bands that started out rocking are doing their best music now. And I don't know if there's a right or wrong time to do it, whether people are locked down. Some people are, follow my thought here, like, well, if the fans aren't doing anything, this is a great time for them to sit down and listen to my music. They'll cheer them up and help them get through the hard times. And some guys are like, no, I want to wait and tour it. Mm-hmm. Is there right or wrong? I don't think so. It's
You
just
hit the nail on the head, to be honest. Through all the difficult times of COVID, um, music was the only pleasurable thing to get people through, if you like. It helped them get through all those difficult times. And also, it's a really funny thing. I've got some beautiful acoustic guitars made by Furch, Furch, from the Czech Republic, and I'd ordered them pre-COVID because they were going to be made specifically for our 50th anniversary. And it was 2 6-strings and a 12-string acoustic, and I never thought I'd ever see them, because of COVID. I thought, the factory probably closed down, never again. And then doorbell went ring. There's guys carrying these boxes in. I went, what's this? And then I opened them up, and it's the Virgin. And I thought, wow, they have come good. And I thought, well, how could they come good? Because with COVID and all that, and everyone, all these other businesses closing.
Yeah.
And I phoned them up and said, thank you very much, but how did this all eventuate? And he said, we're busier than ever. The factory's just overrun. He said, because everyone is at home and they're thinking, oh, I'd like to play guitar. And they're buying guitars, getting more involved with music because they've got the time to do it. It's a genre of music that keeps coming into focus and leaving, and coming into focus and leaving, but it never left, if you know what I mean.
Never left.
It never left the room. Everyone always still loves it, which thank God they do, And here we are 52 years down the line, still going out on the road and playing those songs.
And you're playing big places too. I mean, rock took a big hit, many times.
Yeah.
I mean, and luckily there's some survival for a lot of rock, because Europe itself in particular, the continent, not the band, but the continent is very loving of rock and metal and loyalty. Actually, in Asia, the U.S. is kind of picky and very moody. But outside there, it allowed a lot of careers to keep flourishing.
Well, we're lucky in as much as we're, pre-COVID and pre-war now, as it is. We used to.
Isn't that awful, say?
Yeah. We used to play in 62 countries. Yeah. So we were always out there touring the world, and doing 150 shows a year, So it was we were always out there, loving it. It's what we live for. That communication.
It will come back, but it'll be different now. Even with Brexit, the countries, how bands are going to travel around because of Brexit, on top of COVID, on top of the war. I mean, you're like, what the heck?
It is a dilemma, but it's something that we have to just get on with. I was going to use the word embrace, but I don't think that's the word. I think the word is you just have to get heads down and go for it, because otherwise you sit at home moaning about it all. The fact that the facts are there, that Brexit is not allowing us to move through Europe freely like we used to, and COVID killed a lot of the industry. Yeah. So we just do our bit and get out there and still play to people. We've got festivals through June, July, August, and then we start the 50th anniversary, albeit 2 years late.
Yeah, I know. Congratulations.
Which just up to Christmas would be, again, pre-war, which is just awful what's happening out there. But we had 61 shows in 25 countries in just under 3 months. So that's the sort of tour schedule we were on.
That's good.
We've got a great association with both countries, and we were the first Western rock band to play in Russia, in Moscow, in December '87, invited by Glasnost, went over there and played to 180,000 people in a 10-day period in the Limsky Stadium. And seeing the fans there, it was just amazing how our music actually got through all that communist regime.
Powerful.
Incredible. But, the power of music again. And there again in the Ukraine, I mean, one of our biggest shows ever was 130,000 people in Kiev, or Kyiv, as they say now, in the town square there, So, we've got great fans in both countries, and it's just awful to see that this...
So with the anniversary and the album, and trying to figure out the touring, what's the balance of doing new songs, but you're also doing a 50th anniversary, celebration? Yeah, 50 years of rock, man. And now you're going to be like, oh, by the way, we have a new album. Luckily, we're playing for 5 hours.
Luckily, we've got like 24, whatever it is, albums that we can choose from for music. I don't think the record company will allow us to play any of the new stuff that we've just recorded, because, as we all know, with the media as it is today, and play a song before we're back in the dressing room, taking their jeans off and changing their clothes. It's up on Facebook or something, you know.
Right.
And you don't want your new music to be that be the first entry into it is a really bad recorded version of a song.
Well, what I meant was, I think, well, I got you. I don't put a thought on that too. I think nowadays, when it first came out, it was like Napster. You didn't want that happening, but nowadays, it almost feels like that's just part of the process now. Once it comes out, you see a live version, you see this. Everybody accepts it as being a crappy version. Everybody kind of knows it's kind of the process, and they still wait for the album. I think it's almost becoming part of the norm. But what I'm saying is, like, you're going to start your 50th tour, but at some point, your new album's going to come out during this tour, because it's got to, because the way COVID and everything's going on, it's going to be released kind of around the same time, because you're catching up on the 50. So at some point, you have a new album out while you're still doing your 50th tour. That's what I'm saying. Are you going to?
Might be that we finish the 50th anniversary and then it gets released then, for all I know, and then we start touring the album fully, with the record company's promotion behind it and everything else that's required in this day and age of ours.
It makes sense.
It makes sense, but as musicians,
dates keep getting pushed back, though. You know what I'm saying? But the dates keep getting pushed back. Like, if you keep saying, normally you would have done your 50 already, and you would have had your new album, and it would have been normal. But we don't know what's going to happen. And your tours are becoming these weird conglomerations. You know what I mean?
Well, as musicians, we want it out now.
Right. You're like, I just want to play. I got to play that new music. Let's do it.
Come on, let's rock. But it's we have to bow down to what the record company think. To be honest, it's just in their hands.
That sounds so unrebellious. After 52 years of rock, we have to bow down to the company. No, you don't. Everybody works for you guys. You guys put out the music. You guys set the pace. That's it.
Yeah.
No one's going to see the record company.
Yeah.
They do great stuff. Don't get me wrong. All these labels are doing great stuff, but no one's going to go to see them on stage.
It is the music business, and as all music, we're very good at the music, but over the years we're too good with the business.
It's all good. This is, Mick, I want to thank you for coming on today and giving some time during these times. This has been a pleasure. I want to thank you.
Fantastic. Well, thank you.
Any final words? Any final words you want to say out there for people or anything?
Yeah, I mean, we can't wait to get out there and rock with everyone. I mean, actually, on the posters of the tour as it's going through, it's actually written out of lockdown into rockdown, and I hope that's something that we can really do all over the world, and just get down to what we love doing, and and get out and meet everyone, and do great shows everywhere, and because in the rock music, with like a band like ourselves, we hope that we just help people to escape things that are not good in the world, and you lose yourself for that 2 hours, hour and a half, whatever it is, and have the best time of your life, and leave with a smile on your face, and I think that's and a good feeling in your heart, and I think that's the essence of it all, really.
That's perfect. And I tell people go to the website, the URIAH website, and go to Mick's website. He's got some posters on there. I don't want to get sidetracked, get stuck into a conversation, but just some great posters that you guys have on your poster page. A lot of other good stuff, but the poster page is the best for me. I love the flyers. It's through the years of different bands, and it's just like, who's still there now? URIAH HEEP. All those guys aren't there anymore. Who's still there? URIAH HEEP. You know what I mean? Slow and steady, just gonna keep on going. We're talking today, not some of those guys in those posters.
I think one of my favorite posters is URIAH HEEP, Earth, Wind and Fire, ZZ Top.
That's a good one. That is, yeah.
I
There's
love
some
that.
good ones on there too.
Because at that time, it was only good or bad music. It wasn't pigeonholed like it is now. They put a tour together and they put 3 bands of the same ilk. Whereas in those days, you see ZZ Top being blues-based band, and then Earth, Wind and Fire and all the funk and everything. It was fantastic. And then we come out and do the classic rock. It was great. And the good thing about that is you turn on their fans. Their fans who turned on by this band and that band, and you grow. It was a great time. But yeah, that was a good poster.
It was great. I love that one, and some Def Leppard ones. I love the idea of seeing you and Def Leppard together. I like the 2 different types of music that's similar but a little bit different. The crossover, the influences. That's brilliant. That's kind of what music's about.
Yeah.
So, all right, people, you got the websites. You saw the interview. There's music coming out. There's box sets. There's live music. There's a lot. But when they come, get tickets for the show. All right, Mick, thank you.
Nice.
Take care.
Happy days.